welcome to Shannon Talks Yarn. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest things happening in the yarny community. Are you ready to talk about the annual Hobby Lobby clearance sale? Because I am, and I have got some tips, tricks, and some info that you should know before you hit this sale. Thank you for joining me. I am excited to talk about this sale with you today. It has been something I have got to enjoy the past couple years. And the really amazing thing about this sale is that since Hobby Lobby is clearancing out things they're not going to sell anymore, it could be either an entire line of yarn they're not going to sell, or it could be colorways in a line that they're not going to sell anymore. They mark things off at 75% off. So if a yarn is $4.99 with a regular suggested price, it is going to be $1.24, which is actually now cheaper than the Dollar Tree. So it's an amazing deal. Not everything is that cheap, but I have gotten yarns for I believe the cheapest I got was about 57 cents, and that was the Crafter's Secret Cotton, because those are about $2 or $2.29 a piece. So those were probably the cheapest I've gotten, but I've also gotten skeins of yarn for 99 cents, $1.24. The more expensive things would be the hanks of yarn, the hand-dyed hanks. And I think last year they were around $3.24. I did not purchase any of those at the time because I didn't have a ball winder and Swift at the time. But I remember those being a little more expensive. And then probably the most expensive thing I had seen was they had some 7-weight yarn, and it was almost rope-like in its texture, and it was hand-dyed in very bright colors. It was very pretty, but seemed very impractical, and it was super expensive. I want to say it was around $20, I think, maybe $24 for the normal price. So it was still around $5 or more for the, you wouldn't call it a hank or a skein because it wasn't a lot of yardage. There might have only been 40 or 50 yards in each thing of yarn. So those are probably the most expensive that I've seen, but it is amazing deals. So let's get started now that I've given you a little teaser about the different yarns I've seen and talk about some things you should know before going. The first thing you need to know about this sale is about how Hobby Lobby runs their pricing in general and their checkout system, their point of sale system. And it is not based on the SKU numbers. So if you go to Joann Fabrics, I'm using that as an example, and you pick up a ball of Super Saver Ombre and you saw it was on sale on the website and you take it up to the counter and it rings up automatically what the price is. The cashier isn't looking at the price. She's not referencing anything. And this is not how it is at Hobby Lobby. They are not relying on a computer system for their prices. It reminds me a lot of shopping when I was a kid, where the price of an item was on the item and the cashier looked at the price and punched it into the cash register. That's exactly what they're doing at Hobby Lobby. And my guess is that because of their point of sale system not being integrated with all the other stores and a website and all of that jazz, that's part of the reason why their merchandise can be sold a little bit cheaper, is there isn't that huge expense of running that system. So whether or not I'm right on that, I have no idea. If anyone is from Hobby Lobby Corporate and would like to fill us in on that, that would be amazing. But the reason I bring this up is because in some of these Facebook groups that I'm in, I have seen where people will get upset because they saw someone posted a certain yarn was on sale and they got there and it wasn't. Or they saw that a yarn was on clearance and they went to the website and ordered it and it was not on clearance. So every store is going to be timing theirs slightly different. When I spoke with a gal last year who was in the yarn aisle marking down the yarns when I was there, she informed me that they were given a certain date. And last year, this clearance sale was in June. As far as I know, it's always been in June before this year when it started in March. But she told me, and I can't remember the date specifically because it's, it's been 9 months, but I remember her saying something to the effect of she had the instructions, she had everything that needed to be marked down, and she had the date where it all needed to be marked down by June 28th. Now, I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm going by memory on that. But, they knew a few weeks in advance they could start on it. I'm assuming when they had, enough scheduling hours and other things like that. So there was a range, definitely a multi-week range that they had to get those markdowns done. But there was an end date. So that means, if my store is short-staffed, I've got, if they've got people on vacation or people out sick or, something's going on in another department, that it might get pushed a little bit to the back burner. So something to, think about. Don't just run there and in your mind think, this is on sale, this is going to be clearance, so it'll ring up the sale price even though there isn't a sticker on it. Nope, definitely not true. Now, I was just watching a video from Claire at Woodshed Theory, and she had purchased some yarns, and while she was doing her haul, she noticed that one of her skeins of yarns did not have the clearance sticker on, but that they had rang it in the same. And that could be because the person running the cash register just knew that it should have been marked. Or maybe it was because, when you're buying such quantities of yarn and you see that they're all the same, she just counted, 5 skeins of this one particular yarn and didn't actually inspect. So whatever that reason is, that was great that Claire did not get charged the full price. But, you can't really count on always being that fortunate. So that also, I want to touch again on the fact that while these are on clearance in the store, do not go to the website and order them, because there won't be a markdown at checkout that you didn't see. Like, you will be charged full price, because that just operates on its own system and it's not all integrated. I love a bargain as much or maybe even more as the next person. So it's hard for me not to get excited about a sale this good, but I think it's very important to really keep in mind whether or not the item I'm looking at is something I would really use, or if I'm just overexcited about the bargain. And I think this is important because it can lead to things that might be viewed a little more negatively, like yarn hoarding or overspending, compulsively buying, that type of thing. I love having a yarn stash, and I intentionally built a yarn stash like most of us do. But the reason I've done this is because I want the opportunity to work on a project when I'm inspired. And I also want to make those projects for the least amount of money. So if there's certain types of yarn I like, if there's certain projects I like to do that require a certain type of yarn, I do want to stock up when I can get the best possible price. And I think that's normal, and I think that's also a healthy behavior. But on the other side of that, if you are buying a yarn when it isn't even one of your favorite colors, or if it's say you hate one weights, but it's super cheap and you buy it kind of in the back of your mind thinking you'll never use it. That's probably not the best thing to do during this sale. And while I believe I was probably one of the first people to be at the sale at my Hobby Lobby last year, I didn't just grab everything. I left things that I knew I didn't want. Now, as time goes on, I think our wants and needs can change. So like this year, if I get a chance to go, I am going to be looking at those 1 and 2 weights that I completely disregarded last year. And I'll probably leave the extra chunky blanket yarn, which I was interested in last year. So like I said, I'm definitely a first come, first serve competitive type of person. I'm definitely not saying leave what you want there if you really want it, but just be mindful of your reason for buying. Are you buying it because you really like it, because you like a project, because it's something, you enjoy making, or is it just the thrill of an amazing deal? Something to think about. I want to give you an example of the flip side of that argument. Last year, there was some chunky blanket yarn, the extra chunky 7 weight, and it was in the baby section. I can't remember what the name of it is right now, but it's kind of like that super thick chenille, not the velvet chenille, but the real plushy type of stuff. And it was a kind of mottled, is that the right, where it's got like a little bit of the splotches on it, tan and white. And it looked like the tan was the only one being clearanced out. All of the other ones were still full price. And like I said, at the time I was very into that weight of yarn. So I was reaching out to the top shelf and I thought, I've made one of these type of lap blankets before. I needed 4 skeins of it, so I grabbed down the 4 skeins and threw them in my cart. But there was 1 skein left, and these were marked down. I believe they were $1.24 right in there. I mean, they were very inexpensive. But I did stop and think to myself, was it worth leaving 1 left on the shelf for someone else? Like, what could they really do with 1 skein of blanket yarn? Yes, there are projects you can make with 1 skein, but it just seemed more logical to spend the extra $1.24 and purchase that extra skein, because I could make my blanket slightly bigger and, have 1 more. Also, what if I underestimated and then it would end up kicking myself later on for not having that last skein? So I guess the point or the moral I'm trying to make here is that when you're looking at it and you're looking at what you need for a project, and is it worth leaving 1 there on the shelf because you might need it, and it might not do anybody else any good if there isn't enough yardage in it for a full project. So what do you do if you're the one who finds the one-off lonely skein left in the shelf? Well, what I would do is, first off, if you like it, put it in your cart, or someone else might grab it while you're thinking about it. But take a look and see, first of all, if there are other colorways of that same yarn that are on clearance, because maybe it is something where you can mix and match the other colorways for your project. A lot of hats, a lot of scarves, those type of smaller projects oftentimes have more than 1 color in it. And, it's kind of nice to have that as an option, and you can definitely get by with that. If you're trying to do a larger project like a top, it might not work so well, but I think it's a great option if you can think of a smaller project. I probably wouldn't mix and match the different types of yarn if you find a one-off one, because even if the washing instructions are the same and the weight of the yarn is the same, it still might not have that same feel. So I would just disregard that if it is something where you need multiple skeins to finish your project. Now, take a look at the yardage on the back of the label and see if maybe there's enough in that one skein to just do a hat or an ear warmer, some type of smaller project like that, if it is a yarn that you really like. I'm guessing that if you're listening to a podcast devoted to yarn and crochet, you are not new to the yarny world. But you never know. And you may know someone that is new. And I think a great reason to take advantage of this annual clearance sale is to be able to experiment with some yarns you're not used to. And maybe that even goes to some of the more seasoned crocheters out there. We can get stuck in a rut sometimes and only gravitate towards one type of yarn. So I think that it's a great time to maybe not buy a whole shelf full of a certain type of yarn we're not used to working, but maybe take the opportunity to grab one or two here and there. I know last year I picked up a skein of the scrubby yarn that is it's more of like the polyester type stretchy tubing. I hope I'm describing that correctly. And, I hadn't worked with that before. I was able to get they had odd colors. I got a black sparkly and a bright orange. But in my mind, I was like, okay, I'll pick this up now. I will make some Halloween themed scrubbies. And that's what I did. I took the opportunity of grabbing something super cheap. I think they were about 99 cents a piece for each skein. So $2 wrapped up into it in total. And I think I got about 16 scrubbies in total out of that. So I gave them to a bunch of friends and they work really well. So it was a win-win situation for me there. And now I know for the future whether or not I do want to spend my money on that when it's not a clearance sale. Another reason to take advantage of this sale is yearly gift giving opportunities. And I think a lot of us generally know who we will be giving gifts to for what holidays. Doesn't usually change that much year to year, neither the holidays you celebrate nor the people in your life. And oftentimes we know those people's favorite colors, favorite sports team colors, all sorts of different things. We also maybe know who's expecting a baby this year, different things like that. So if you can go into it knowing, maybe make a little list before you head out and write people's names down and some possibilities of different gift ideas so that when you're in the store, you can reference that list, whether it's a paper list or in the notes on your phone, it doesn't matter. But to kind of keep you on track when you see a yarn, because sometimes things are colors that aren't your colors, you don't gravitate to them, but you think, maybe I could do something with that. You can just reference that list and be like, oh, that's right. My friend so-and-so likes the Minnesota Vikings or the Green Bay Packers. So I could definitely buy these bright colored yarns, or whatever. Same way with the baby yarn, if you have some littles in your life or someone will be expecting, grab that yarn now because you can get it so much cheaper that it will cut down your expenses when that gift giving occasion arises. And, that's just smart shopping as far as anything goes. I want to spend a minute here talking about the store employees and all of us yarn shoppers. So I live pretty far from any Hobby Lobby. I have to drive 45 minutes north or 50 minutes south or more to get to a Hobby Lobby. So it's not something where I have the opportunity just to drive by on my way home from work and check it out. So it requires a little more pre-planning. And last year, I swallowed my pride big time. And on all of my days off, I called the store. And I just wanted to say that I tried to be very polite when I called. I was very respectful and did not try to pester them. And some of the employees definitely seemed to know more, and other ones did not know as much about what I was talking about. So the first thing you don't want to do is don't ask if the yarn is on sale, because they are going to think that you mean the every other week 30% off yarn sale. So what I did when I called was politely ask, hey, I live an hour away and I'm going to head up, and I was just wondering if you could tell me if the clearance markdown has started in the yarn department or not. And like I said, most people were pretty kind. I think I had one gal who had no clue at all what I was talking about. So maybe she was new, maybe she normally, works in other departments, who knows? But like I said, most of the time, well, all but the one time I called and they said yes. They said, no, I'm not really sure when that'll be. And I said, okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And then the time that the gal did tell me, yes, it just started, I was like, okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll see you in an hour. So that's one of those things you have to decide if you're comfortable with or not. And if I lived close, like in the same town, I would just show up every day and look, but that's not an option for me. So the next thing I want to say in this same vein is, if you're there and you happen to be fortunate enough that you are showing up at the very beginning of the sale, you're going to have a store worker there marking stuff down. And as I stated earlier, this is not a computerized system. This is them looking at sheets of paper, finding the correct, corresponding inventory and marking it down with stickers. So it takes some time. It takes them several days or a week to get through everything. And this, I think, can be a little problematic, especially when you've seen all these hauls and you're just so eager, especially if you know that something you want has yet to be marked down. My friend Claire at Woodshed Theory had said in her video that she was very patiently waiting, but she spent quite a few hours, and she purchased a bunch of things she liked and ended up going out to her car. She got something to eat, spent some time in the area, but doing a few other things, and then went back in the store. And, I believe when I was there, filled up my cart with stuff I knew I wanted, and then did just take a nice leisurely stroll around the store before coming back and, getting back into that area where the worker was at. I just, we don't want our wonderful, beautiful, genuinely nice yarny community becoming stalkers. So, maybe I'm just saying this as a reminder to myself more than anything, but I do think it's important to, be respectful and just know that these people are working hard. And like I said, it's just not a fast way to do things. And the last thing, as far as employees and customer service type things, is when I am as I'm putting all my yarns in my cart, I am trying to separate them by the prices. And part of this is so that I know what I'm spending and I can decide what's important to me for my budget. But second to that, when I get up to the cash register, I try to give them all of the same prices all together. So they still have to look at everything and count them. Like I said, it's not a magic system. It's not computerized. So they can't just take your word. You can't just hand them 20 skeins of yarn and be like, yep, these are all 99 cents. They are going to look at them, but I just think it's kinder to the employee to try to group them together so it is a little faster and a little easier, so they can just glance and not have to search so hard. And I guess I can say this because I have had jobs where I've had to work a cash register, and, I just know it's a tough job. And, some of us kind of look like crazy yarn ladies when we show up with a cart or two full. The one downside of this sale that I have found to be true is that once in a while you find a really, really amazing yarn that you fall madly in love with using, and that's all you'll ever get. So an unfortunate side effect of the discontinued yarns. You may be able to find some on Etsy or eBay or, with someone's private stash that they're selling. But for the most part, what is there is all that's there. So definitely be mindful of that and just know going into it, these tips for shopping the annual Hobby Lobby clearance yarn sale have helped you out. I hope you have fun shopping. I hope you stick with your budget, and I hope you get lots of amazing yarns. And I would love it if you would let me know what you found. You can reach out to me here. You can reach out to me on my YouTube channel, my Instagram, or my Facebook, and let me know, what did you find?